and where we go from here. Now that I think about it, on second thought, I don't think I'm going to go into how we got here. Everyone knows how we got here. Think about it. That shit that went on in Ferguson, Missouri, several other places. Think about Rodney King. Cops have been beating the shit out of people for no reason for years and years and years. We know how we got here. I think what's more constructive is to talk about where we are right now. Because if you look at it, if you follow the news coverage, you would think that 75% of the population of the U.S. is out in the streets burning, raping, pillaging, and murdering. That's just not the case. The title of this podcast is Moderately Speaking. My vain attempt to kind of show what it's like in the middle. I'm not necessarily a conservative. I'm not necessarily a liberal. Kind of in the middle. And I can see both sides of the issues most of the time. Not this time. My diatribe against police notwithstanding, I consider myself to be a law-abiding citizen. And the overwhelming majority of Americans, you know what we're doing right now? We're waking up in the morning, getting dressed while either listening to or watching the news, getting in our vehicles or jumping on, our preferred public transit system, and we're taking our stupid asses to work. And we're watching all this shit play out with a sense of foreboding and sadness, coupled with almost a sense of helplessness, because what's the way forward? Where we are right now is looting, raping, burning, pillaging, killing, going on in several of our major metropolitan areas, filtering down into the not so major metropolitan areas, watching people trying to start a grassroots movement based on anarchy and destruction, cordoning off 6-block areas in at least 2 major cities right now, declaring it not in the United States, no longer part of the United States. And in a lot of ways, where we are now is a direct result of our willingness in the past to pacify when maybe an ass-kicking was in order. Look at it this way. How do you combat an opponent who has built their strategy for success around your restraint and decency? I can say that a little bit better. Give me a second. How do you counteract the aggression of an opponent whose recipe for success relies heavily on your restraint, sense of decency, and belief in higher ideals? How do you combat an opponent like that? Because if you take a step back and look at this situation, completely divorce yourself from the emotion of what you're seeing on TV, whether you are for it or against it. Take a step back and look. What are you seeing really? Let's take that bullshit in Seattle, for example. Cordoning off a 6-block area, saying that we've officially seceded from the Union and we are our own autonomous sovereign nation at this point. By the way, we're taking this 6-block area of Seattle. You can't have it back. How do they think that's going to work long term? What's their plan? I can tell you that their plan is not to fortify and defend that area against all enemies, foreign and domestic. No. I think that they're fairly confident that the United States is not going to roll in there with the military. Their borders are not going to get breached by Marines. Their model for success relies heavily on the restraint of the American government. So that line of thinking leads me to the next question. Can any group or entity be taken seriously who exists solely because nobody wants to squash them. Notice they didn't take 6 square blocks of farmland. How are they going to eat? Well, they're going to make demands of the city, county, and state authorities to bring them food. You will supply us with food. You will supply us with water. You will supply us with the things that we need in order to survive in our little autonomous state here. In our city state, they're playing house. They've built themselves a clubhouse in our backyard. How the hell are we supposed to take them seriously? Why should we take them seriously? This isn't the foundation of a movement. This is a bunch of children having a tantrum. We've moved beyond mourning over George Floyd or the outrage about the way he lost his life, the way his life was taken from him. Let's just call it what it is. We've moved beyond that. We're beyond that now. This isn't honoring the memory of George Floyd. And it's not about expressing outrage at the way police treat black people anymore. We're past that too. So we've moved into what can only be described as revolution. But again, with my moderate view of politics, I can get behind a disgust with police. I can understand the whole Black Lives Matter thing. I get it. When this first popped off, I thought, you're damn right. You know, it's about time. Let's, you know what? Wreck some shit. Some shit needs to be wrecked. Take to the streets. Because the way that guy died was nothing short of murder on camera by the very people who were supposed to be protecting and serving that community. But I also see the conservative side. Because I got to be honest, I'm kind of leaning conservative on this one. Guys, we're not protesting anymore. I'm not sure we ever were. I think we were just rioting, looting, pillaging, burning and murdering, raping, beating up old people. And the conservative side of me says, okay, it's enough. The moment they started talking about defunding police departments, I was out. I mean, I was out before that. When I saw him burn out fucking Little Caesars, I was kind of out on that. What the hell does Little Caesars have to do with saving black lives? Nothing. But we crossed a threshold when we started talking about defunding the police. And here I am sitting across from you. I can go back to the stats and figures and that sort of thing. You know, I saw a thing today that was an interesting statistic. I'm not going to tell you about it because you don't care and you won't believe my source anyway, but it was a pretty good stat about cop on black violence versus black on black violence in the United States. I thought it was really telling. It was poignant. But we're not protesting anymore. We're not mourning. No. Now it's a revolution. It's exactly what it is. And me, I think I can speak for the overwhelming majority of Americans when I say we have no patience for revolutions. Not here. You can take your fucking revolution and go somewhere else. Here, we don't do revolutions. Not anymore. Those days are over. And rather than carving out a giant section of Seattle and Portland and who knows which city's coming next, why don't you just leave? Go try your hand somewhere else. Pick a country. Choose any nation you like and go there. Get the fuck out if you don't like it here. There's gigantic swaths of Canada that they would just let you have. Do you think Canada gives a fuck about the Northwest Territories? Not even a little. You want to take your little ANTIFA group and your Black Lives Matter group and go up there and make your own nation state? By goddamn, you go right ahead. I'm sure Canada would love to have you. Tuck you up there in extreme northern Saskatchewan or Northwest Territories where you're not going to bother anyone. Well, you don't want to go there, do you? No, of course not. There's not a target to burn for 1,000 miles. There's not a compassionate society to prey on. There's no one to submit your list of demands to in the Northwest Territories. You know, the city of Seattle is bringing These people who set up their own little nation state right there in town, that little 6-block area, the city of Seattle is bringing them food, water, basic medical supplies, and porta potties. Yeah, they sure are. On the taxpayer's dime. My middle-of-the-road centrist point of view here looks at that and goes, why the hell are tax dollars being spent to support people who are actively trying to secede from the... Not trying. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I fucked that up. They didn't try to secede from the Union. They did. They're saying they're no longer part of the United States. Why the fuck are we supporting them then? I'm not going to say that the Marines need to storm their little barricades and whip them all into shape. Maybe the time for that will come, but I'm not there yet. I'm still in the stage where, and you know what? I'm a father. What do you do with a petulant child? Maybe you're a parent, too. And if you're a parent, you know that there are several ways to handle a petulant, fit-throwing child. Because make no mistake, that's what they're doing. They're petulant, fit-throwing children at this point. It stopped being about George Floyd 8 hours into the quote-unquote protests. And now it's evolved into something that resembles revolution by people who are not equipped in any way, shape, or form to govern anything. So as a parent, several ways to handle a petulant, fit-throwing child. You can turn them over your knee and just paddle their little asses. That usually stops it. You can also sit them down and give them a stern talking to. Or in some cases, very rare cases, but I think these are the most meaningful lessons, you give them exactly what they want. Absolutely. Hey, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, you guys want this 6-block area of Seattle? Go ahead. It's yours. We're not going to stop you. Call it whatever you want. The Capitol Hill Free Zone or whatever the fuck they're calling it, right? Call it whatever you want. Set up your own rules, create your own government. By all means, do it. But here's the catch. You have erected walls around your nation state, as you should. But I don't want you to worry about us coming inside those walls to try to get you. No, we're not going to do that. Those walls are there to protect us from you. And surrounding those walls is going to be the local police force and also the National Guard, with orders to treat anyone coming outside of that barrier with the intent to loot, rape, pillage, murder, kill, arson, blow shit up, whatever they're going to do. If their intention, if they walk outside that barricade, is to do anything but take your toys and go home, shoot to kill. Treat them like you would any foreign invader. Because that's exactly what you are now. You've seceded from the Union. You're no longer a citizen of the United States. You said so yourselves. So there you go. There's your clubhouse. Rot in it. We're not going to be bringing you food. We're not going to be bringing you water. We're not going to be bringing you any more goddamn porta potties. We're not going to be supporting you with taxpayer dollars in any way, shape, or form. And you are not coming out here looking for those things, because if you do, you will be shot on sight as an invading foreign army. That's the only way you can combat a group of people who rely on a society's sense of decency to achieve their goals. The only way you can combat them is to give them exactly what they want, down to the letter. I'd like to thank you for joining me on this first episode of the Moderately Speaking podcast. I think this is going to be the first episode of many, hopefully, episodes, but definitely the first episode in a 4-part series following the civil unrest of 2020. If you like what you've heard here, tell a friend. Hell, tell 7 friends where to find me. You can also visit me on Twitter. And I would love to give you my Twitter handle, but when I punched in my Twitter handle, Twitter was like, yeah, right on. There you go. But then they changed the name. It's something 19743. I'm going to say go to Twitter and just search for Moderately Speaking. You'll find me there.